What is going on, everybody? Look, did I post last week? No. Was I sick? Yes. Was I tired? Yes. But I'm back now. Sorry about that. I usually even post up a Instagram story or post on Facebook or whatever, just saying there's not going to be any podcast this week. And I didn't do that because I was pretty cooked. I had probably the busiest social week of my life. Look at me being popular. And I was pretty tired and I kind of got sick. So apologies. But what we're going to do today, we may as well just get into this because obviously we did have the AFLW Grand Final loss. I did go to that with the Close to a Flag guys and Marnie. And we did not get the chocolates in that one, unfortunately. And I recorded an episode with Joel again, looking at players who we think might be under a bit of pressure for different reasons next season, with the people we've brought in, with the people we've drafted, and so on and so forth. We sort of explain it all during the interview anyway. So I'm going to drop that piece in now. And then at the end, we're going to talk a little bit of AFLW Grand Final, but not too much because we lost. It's sad, and we're going to try and keep it positive in the off season. Other than that, thank you for all the support. If you guys are listening on YouTube, please subscribe. YouTube's doing really well for me recently. I'm going to try and film these very soon once I get their proper equipment. By the start of next season, I'll be filming them and putting them up there for you guys to see my face. For all the shock and horror I'm sure we're going to watch next year as part of our North Melbourne Premiership journey. But yeah, subscribe on YouTube, please. I've got all the socials. I love to interact with everybody. I'm always slow on the messages, so I apologize if I don't get back to people as quickly as I would like to. But I always put polls up, ask you guys stuff, get you guys to contribute to the show, which you do really, really, really well. So yeah, Further North Podcast, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter /X, all the stuff. Anyway, that's enough of the corporate jargon. I'm going to drop the interview with Joel right now. It's a good one. See, you know what? Tell me which ones you guys don't agree with, because I reckon there's some hot takes in here. And if you don't agree with one of them, message me and let's chat about it. Because, I don't know, I wonder if all the things, it's crazy, isn't it, supporting a team? Because all the things I think, I'm like, yeah, this is so obviously how it is. Then there's so many other people that are like, what? That dude in the podcast is crazy. Why would he think that? So, no, we can all be friends and disagree, but let's have some North banter. There's not really much more going on until next year with North Melbourne now. So, just a lot of blokes in Speedos on the Instagram, which, that's what we're here for, I guess. So, anyway, that's enough. I'm rambling. Enjoy the interview with Joel and, some AFLW chat after. Welcome back, everybody, to the Further North podcast. I'm doing a little bit worse for wear today, but we've got Joel back on the podcast for a little bit of emotional support for me at the moment. I did go to the AFLW Grand Final, obviously not the only reason why I'm a little bit worse for wear at the moment. A massive week for me and I'm a little bit under the weather. So if my voice is croaky or I cough, I apologize in advance. But maybe we get Joel to host today and I'll pretend to be the guest. I'm sure you're confident at doing that, Joel, right?
Yeah, just randomly drop in and start talking about football. That'll work well for us.
Yeah, you're the host of the podcast now. It's your podcast. I'm handing it to you.
I'll just keep asking you questions now as my baseline. It's like, how do you think? No.
Absolutely. Well, what we're going to do today is basically after the draft, we're going to talk about which players we think might be at risk or maybe need to step their games up, or players that need to be looking over their shoulder who, might be at a little bit of risk of getting dropped out of the team or have one of the young guys step over the top of them. So we're basically just going to go turn for turn here and discuss which players we think might have a little bit to think about or be under a little bit of pressure. So we're going to keep it pretty simple. We're going to go turn for turn and do that. And I'm sure there'll be some fun discussion points in this. So I guess, do you want to kick us off, Joel? Actually, you're the host today. So do you want to kick us off with the first player you think's under a bit of pressure now?
I guess I can start us off. Depends how controversial I really want to go to start off with, but let's start with
go controversial. Let's reel the listener in so listen to the whole thing.
Yeah, and it'll probably upset poor Marnie, but I reckon Hugh Greenwood's at real danger by the end of the year.
Oh dear. Sorry, Marnie, to kick it off this way. As you know, Joel brought that up, not me. So look, you can message him a scathing message and I can remain in the good books with Marnie. But why do you think Hugh Greenwood might be under a bit of pressure?
Well, he's one of our more senior players at this point. Was struggling to get games last season. He's coming to the end of his contract at the end of 2024, and I'm not sure where I see him sitting in our list. The mids have sort of been preferenced now with the younger guys. If he's playing at the end of the year, there's going to be other players that will probably be bringing up that will be in different concerns. And as a forward, which is probably the next role that he plays, if it's not inside mid, it's a forward. I don't see his position being held as well with now Dersma coming in, with now, he'll be wanting forward to probably prioritize forward/wing over him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think his position now is becoming a lot more vulnerable. And I like him as a player, but I think his position's a lot more vulnerable these days than it was in previous seasons.
Yeah, I did have Hugh on the list here. Not right at the top for me, but I think one thing he does have in his favour is he is pretty handy all over the ground. And when we do eventually get injuries, which of course is going to happen, I think he might be one of the first on the list to sort of plug into a forward role, the midfield, obviously. And look, as much as I love Ruckman Hugh Greenwood, I don't know if that's going to be the strategy that we go with. So I think the thing that does go in his favour is he is very versatile, but I would say if we are firing on all cylinders, I don't know exactly where I'd put him. I think he'd be a really good sub because you can play him in so many positions. I think the sub rule is something maybe we need to have a look at a little bit, just because I'm not sure how many times a sub came on who won a team a game. I'm probably missing something here because, look, I'm not completely all over it like yourself maybe, but putting another fast winger or a fast midfielder on, I don't know if that is the player that you need as a sub. And I think a guy like Hugh Greenwood, is perfect for that sort of role. If one of our forwards goes down or it's not clicking in the forward line, obviously the midfield, he can get in and under if we're not winning it out of the midfield. And, if Jerry's ankle explodes or something like that again, we can chuck Hugh Greenwood in there. But, I think, look, last year, you're right. Last year, struggled to get a game, prioritizing youth. I could maybe see him getting a game if we're good for a bit of experience, and say we do a lot better than we're expected and he's sort of part of that, he'll keep his spot. But, I expect us to be near the bottom again. So maybe that does prioritize youth over experience, and maybe a constant 7 to 8 out of 10 every week compared to someone who's going to be 10 out of 10 or 5 out of 10, but they're like 20 years old, Yeah,
well, he's currently the second oldest player on our list, which is a bit of a shock. He's also did he end up playing against Gold Coast? Was he in that game?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. And that was a lot of midfielders out and a lot of forwards out. And that's the kind of game where you would be plugging in a senior body to try to, get those games in. He's, I actually like him a lot as a player, but there was just something. My gut feel is he's, if he's playing the last 6 games of the year, I'm assuming either there's a big injury list or players haven't come along as we would hope that they would.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And it is harsh because I like Hugh Greenwood. And I think every time he is on the field or in the team, I'm like, cool, I've got absolutely no problem with it. But I guess, one of the things I did realize, I did try and write down what I think the best 22 would be for North next year. And I'm not going to reveal that just yet. That's going to be another episode in itself at some point. But, there are a few players that I'm like, wow, I can't believe these guys aren't getting in the team. And that's a problem we've never really had for the last 4 years. So that's a good thing. Good players in the twos or on the fringes. We need to have more of that because that means our list is more talented. And if we do get injuries or when we get injuries, we're not plugging in, Phoenix Spicer or Jack Marnie or someone like that. So
hey, you got a gig up at the Gold Coast. So let's not forget Marnie's still on a list now.
Yep. Yes. I wonder what dirt he's got on the AFL or Damien Hardwick. But look, good luck to him, and I'm excited for Jack Marnie to kick
hope he has
5
a very good
against us when we play the Gold Coast. So, and we'll be like, why do we let this guy go? So, anyway, Hugh Greenwood, good shout. I'll throw out another one to you then, and this is my top of the list, biggest one is Jai Simpkin, our captain. My explanation for this is not that he's not going to be in the best 22, because he definitely is in our best 22, but I don't see him being in our best 3 or 4 for the midfield. I'd say LDU, Taron Thomas, George Wardlaw are the best 3. He's probably in that next group. He's better than a Will Phillips or someone like that. So I don't think he's in our. He's going to get plenty of midfield minutes, by the way. Don't get this twisted. I think he's going to get plenty of time. McKercher obviously going through there. Will Phillips. I think Zerha's going to get more minutes in there as well. So look, I think he's probably our 4th or 5th best midfielder to be in the centre bounce. The other thing is, could he go on a wing? Well, Stevens and Bailey Scott have sort of got those locked up, except for an injury. And then you could see him maybe on a high half forward role pushing into the midfield, which I think might be his best position next year. But then you've got Eddie Ford, you've got Dersma, you've got Braden George, if he comes on, you've got Paul Curtis and Jaden Stevenson and all these other guys in those roles. So look, he's definitely in our best 22, and I'm not suggesting he's not. I think he's a good captain and he's going to be there. But as our starting 22 and our best 22, I'm not sure he's in our midfield 3. I'm not sure he's on the wings, and I'm not sure he's on the half forward line. What do you think about that?
There's actually his contract is one of our longest contracts currently. But I do completely agree. I struggle to see next year, as an inside mid, I would want to prioritize Phillips in the inside mid role, because I think we need to develop him. He needs to get games into him. And then as an outsider one, he doesn't have the disposal or the pace anymore of your LDUs, your Taron Thomases.
McKercher looks really quick as well. Season.
McKercher's, very quick on the outside, and he can go inside a bit. I did watch the highlights and the replay of the Sydney game, and he did kick a couple of nice goals in big moments as well.
I think he's always been decent in front of goal as well.
Yeah, he has. I think he started more as that high as well, that high half forward, and then he sort of moved to the middle, and he's got a and they always love to show his topless photos on the North.
Well, and you've got a rig like that, mate. You may as well show it off.
I don't tend to have the same rig when I take my top off, but we'll look at his for now. But
we can only dream.
Can only dream. But I think his role's in serious. He'll have to seriously look at the position he's playing and probably change. I agree with you. I don't see him as the start at the centre bounce at the start of the game. Who are we going to see in that bounce? And I don't see him in that role.
Yeah, I wouldn't be concerned if he wasn't in that. If he was in that role, though, I'd put Wardlaw, LDU, Taron as our 3 midfielders. But if Wardlaw his hammy's a bit tender and Simpkin goes in there, I'm not concerned at all. And once again, I'll double down. I really like Jai Simpkin, and he's going to be in our in our best 22. But I think my main point was, which position is he going to lock down a position, or is he going to have to be a bit of a utility to sort of play where there's a gap or when there's an opportunity? And, should your captain be the sort of player that's like, oh, well, he's not in our best 3 midfielders. He's not going to be the best 2 wingers or the half forwards. I'm not exactly sure. I think he is a great leader. I think him and Larky are the 2 best at the club, and I don't have a problem with Jai Simpkin being the captain. But yeah, I think, the thing to watch for Jai next year is, what is his role on this team? Is he going to be the half forward? Is he going to be in the midfield? And I think he'll do a little bit of both, but I'm more saying like a specific defined role where he is best.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. I think, my gut feel with the club of what I've seen, particularly from the social medias they put out, are sort of showing where they're going. I think it's fairly obvious that they want the future captain and the future leaders to be Sheasel and Wardlaw at this point. Like, you watch every social media, they're just pumping those guys out. And positive news stories, which is, may I add, Sheasel looks the absolute goods for that role. He talks extremely well. He does. A good on-field leader. He does all these things that you really love to see. And Simpkin's done that through some of the hardest time for us as well. And I love Simpkin as a player, but I think he's, the inside mid, or the role that he's built that he won his best and fairest for us off, is probably not the role that he'll have going into next year, I think. This year coming, he'll probably play like he'll still get a huge amount of centre bounces.
Absolutely.
Change, but it's not going to be quite the same as it was, which is positive for the club as a whole.
I think so too. Yeah, I think so. It sounds harsh, and once again, it's no spite on Jaya whatsoever. But yeah, that to define his role exactly and where he's best in this team going forward will be interesting to see. Do you want to throw out another one at me?
Yeah, we can go for a bit of a softer one, I reckon, and Lazaro.
Yep, I've got Lazaro down here. I've sort of got him in a little bit of a mix of players that I think aren't in our best 22, but I don't know how they get in. And you know what? I mean, I'll should we lump these ones together, because I do have a few more maybe bigger talking points. But the three players I've got in a different category here are more Blake Drury, Cooper Harvey, and Charlie Lazaro, where I think they are definitely in the twos. And if all things are going well, I don't know how they get into the senior team, especially a Cooper Harvey and a Blake Drury, or Lazaro, to be fair. I mean, Lazaro, you got McKercher there now. Cooper Harvey, you've got a Dersma on top of the gluttony of half forwards. And Blake Drury, I'm not sure where he plays, to be honest. I'm not sure if he's a half back or a half forward, but half forward, we already know there's heaps of those. And Sheasel and now Fisher and Bergman and Goda are all off half back. I'm not sure how these players get into the team. And to be honest with you, I hope they kind of don't get in the team, and only because that means that the best players are playing consistently. But, you know, those three have a lot to prove. I think Charlie Lazaro's last game against the Gold Coast was very good. Cooper Harvey maybe didn't. He looks like a good AFL player, but will he be in the best 22? I'm not sure. And I haven't seen heaps from Blake Drury. And you know, his first game was decent, and then he fell away pretty quick. They're all very young and have plenty of time, and they might become stars. I'm not writing them off in any capacity, but yeah, those three, let's lump together. And I think it's good if they're not in the team, because it means we're doing okay. But also, yeah, I wonder how they are going to get games barring injury.
Yeah, I went to a lot of VFL games last year, and Lazaro absolutely tears it up at VFL level. Like, he gets 30 plus disposals, he's goal assistant, he's doing everything. But the role that he plays there is deep inside mid. At every centre bounce, he's there. He's, for every major bounce, every major throw up, he's the first one at the feet of the ball. And that's where he thrives. At AFL level, he's behind a lot of players in that role. The Gold Coast game, we saw him play that role, to be honest. I think that was probably why we saw him get the skill that he had and the talent that he had on display. So I think, like, he's got a lot of assets, but I tend to agree with you. I don't think he's going to make it to the next level, he'll be a great VFL player, but I'm not sure he gets ahead of, like, he doesn't have the burst away pace or the disposal of the other guys that are ahead of him. Cooper Harvey, it's his second year now. I think he's in competition with a lot of players in that role. He's got a good contested that I thought, but like, he's got a lot to prove this year. Like, I struggle to see what a successful season is for him this year. Like, realistically, he would be wanting to play 12 games or half the season in the seniors at least, and be pushing constantly. Short of that, it's starting to struggle to see where he is. Then Blake Drury, he's the third child in the Wardlaw Sheasel Drury table. He's best mates with those guys, and if he keeps them happy, he can stay on our list for as long as he likes.
Yeah, he's there strictly for team chemistry.
It's like when we brought in Shane Harvey for Brent Harvey.
Well, Jade Rawlings, did he get a run at North, or was he never at North? He was at...
he was.
Was he at North? Yeah.
Yeah, it was Jade, and Jade was brought in for a short run, I think. But we brought in Shane to keep Brent happy, and I think we've brought Drury in to keep the other boys happy. So if it keeps them happy, I'm happy. Yeah,
look, good on him. Obviously, there's a lot of positive about Blake Drury with his leadership and things like that. But I guess your leadership, not it doesn't matter, but your leadership is shown when you're in our best 22, I guess. So
yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So look, they're I'm also noticing on here. Oh God. Oh, no. None of these are key position players as well. And I wish any of those guys were key. If any of those guys were key position players, I'd be like, look, they might be able to push and find a spot in this team. But, we keep drafting midfielders, and I'm not sure what that says about Lazaro and a Drury, because a lot of, these days in the AFL, we love drafting midfielders and putting them off half back, every club. So, yeah, look, if they get into the side, they're clearly playing well, and that's good. But if they're not in the side, that means the players who I'd say maybe have a bit more talent than them are also playing very well. So it's kind of a win-win. But once again, not players that I don't want to see play in the senior team. I just maybe don't think they've got as high of a potential or a quality of game. But, once again, these are good problems to have. So hopefully that there's a bit more depth instead of bringing in some players that we mentioned before. All right, I'll throw out another big one here for you.
Mm-hmm.
Cam Zurhaar. Now, we love Bull. We all love Bull, and we love his cooking.
We do love Bull.
But Bull had a very inconsistent year and a very average year. When he was on the field, let's just talk about that besides the injuries. He had games where he can obviously, and this has been his career, he can win a game off his own boot, And then there was a lot of times where he was pretty anonymous, having single-digit disposals to halftime and a bit wayward in front of goal. I think drafting a Dersma puts pressure on him. I could maybe see him playing as that centre-half forward again, like he did a couple of seasons ago. But, there are other guys that could partner up with Larky up there. I know they're not our favourite options, but like a Coleman Jones can do it and Charlie Comben, depending on where he sees himself or where the club sees him going in the side. But I just think I still think he's in our best 22, sort of like Jai Simpkin. I think he's best 22 because on his day, he's electrifying, the King of Marvel. But, I think it's more just the extra pressure of another 190 centimetre half forward coming onto the list with a very high potential. I think that might just put a little bit of pressure on him, which could be good because if he can get his fitness up and start being more consistent, he can be a fantastic player for us and even sort of slide into the midfield because I think in spurts he was incredibly dynamic in the midfield as well. So Zurhaar is my next.
Oh, it's harsh on poor Bull. There's aspects that I really like. My issue with Bull, and I love him as a player, is the difference between he's good and he's bad is really big at the moment. Like when he doesn't play well in a game, he's nearly non-existent in the game.
Correct.
And where like this season, he only played 16 games, which is a decent amount. He kicked 20 goals out of those. I think he was still our third highest goal scorer, may I add, which is a bit of an indictment on our forwards.
It's concerning, but that's fine.
That is concerning. And he came off the year before, 19 games and 34 disposals. So, he had a decent year before, but it is a big year for him. Like, we're so short in that forward line. And, like, I don't see him as a number 2 forward, which he's always been playing.
I see has no choice, though, doesn't he, with our key forward depth?
Yeah. I mean, if you get him onto that mid-size, he can create a lot of issues. And they started to move him more into the middle as well, which I think is sort of to give a bit more body in that mid where he can sort of create a bit of space for the other guys to run through. The other thing with him is he is out of contract and there's always going to be those links back to Perth for him. Though I think he's very, like my gut feel is he's very close with like your Larkies and a few of those guys where they're really good mates. I'm not sure that's something that he would leave with.
I think there's a chance we're above both of those Western Australian teams anyway. I don't think
there is
Fremantle
a chance of that
appealing. To be honest, Fremantle might make the finals next year. That you never know, but I'd say they're probably less or more likely to not than they will. And West Coast, I mean, Harley Reid's cool, I guess, but there's still a very aging list there that needs some work. So, I have said this on a few podcasts before that my gut feeling is Zurhaar's going to leave. I haven't seen him be as committed. I just get a gut feeling that he's not like fully in with the North project. I think he is very close with people, but sorry, you go.
I was going to say, I don't disagree with your thought pattern, but the only thing I'd say with him is, even though he does have the link back to Perth, the last time there was strong links for him, it was for Essendon. So it was for Melbourne clubs. Opposed to anywhere else.
But that's kind of what I see from him. It's like I have a feeling that it's not going to be because of Perth. Everyone knows my thoughts on the go home factor, and I think it's trash and nowhere near as big of a problem if we stop talking about it so much. But also, I could fully see him leaving for even a Hawthorn if they go up, or a Bulldogs, or an Essendon. I could, and I don't know why exactly, because I really love Cam Zurhaar. Like, this is no shade on him and my love for Cam Zurhaar. I think he's electric on his day, and I hope he plays his whole career for North, gets incredibly consistent, because he'll be a fan favourite for a decade here. But, once again, like Simpkin, he's definitely in our 22. Definitely. Like, there's no question he's in our best 22. But, I just think there's that little bit more pressure on him now with another half forward there. Where exactly does he play? Like, is he going to somehow be able to play a centre half forward type role with his height? Is he going to go in the midfield more? It's more a question about where does he fit in. And if he doesn't fit into a particular spot, there is pressure to maybe for a Dersma or someone like that to overtake him.
Yeah, well, Dersma, my gut feel is a successful season for Dersma would be playing 12 games. That'd be a really successful season. Because I think, he's not, you look at his body size, he's still very thin. He's going to take a little while to develop to what he needs to get to. And I think Bull's position that he plays at the moment is exactly what Dersma can do. And except Dersma's, hopefully, by the time he's playing serious AFL, will be able to spend the same amount of time in the middle as well, and have that forward middle role and, hit there for impact. So I think Bull's, going to play that role for a while. But I'd be curious to see Bull if we had a really competent second tall in the forward line. I'd be curious to see how he would go in that. He won that. I still remember the Richmond game that he played where he won the game off his own boot. He nearly won the Essendon game for one of the Essendon games this season as well by impact. But yeah, I'm curious to see how he goes in the next. This season is a very big season for him, and it's a contract year for him. So if he has a really good year, you'll start to see the contracts come for him. If he plays like he played last year, I think he'll be, middling, and then there won't be too much competition for him.
Do we want him to not play at his peak so we can make sure we secure him, or do we want him to have a 50-goal season and then Carlton snaps him up or something like that?
It's like Daniel Wells. Nothing was better than contract year Daniel Wells.
And
I loved Wellsy. Wells, he was a good player. But contract year Wells was, all Australian caliber, and
unreal.
Got a few in that category this year. So be interesting.
True. Wonder where Kane Corns will predict him to go, because he won't predict him to stay at North with the mass exodus we were meant to see already, which hasn't happened yet. It's very strange. All right, give us another one then.
I'll go to my brother's favourite. My brother Rudy, he loves this guy, Curtis Taylor.
Yep, Curtis Taylor. Interesting.
He's a real delisting risk at the end of the year if he hasn't solidified his spot. He's been on our list for a fair whack now. He came in with so much promise, and he had some very good games, and I thought this year was the year for him to really step up. But he just seems to he got replaced by Ford midway through the year, and Ford took the wing and was playing the role just as well, but a lot younger and a bit more development, or 2 years younger and a bit more development. So I'll be curious to see Curtis this year. I think he's finding him, and with Stevens coming in particularly, you've got Stevens on one, Bailey Scott. I'm not sure where he fits into the list as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I guess, Curtis did play those couple of games as a tagger, so I guess it's interesting to see if Clarkson goes something to do with that again, because we really don't have a midfield. Like if we needed to tag someone right now, who would you pick to do it on our team?
Gosh, Kane Turner's not there anymore, so I'm not sure.
I think it kind of has to be Curtis Taylor. Not that I think he can do that, but he clearly is better at it than we'd probably suggest. I don't know. I could maybe see him getting a few games if he develops that in that role. But I agree with you. Like him on the half forward line, once again, a gluttony of players there. The wings hopefully look pretty locked up. I don't see Curtis Taylor as an incredibly quick player. I don't think he's incredibly skillful as well. I think we might have seen the best of Curtis Taylor, to be honest. And, I agree with you, as harsh as it is and as much as I don't like saying it, I think you're right. I think he is a strong delisting chance at the end of the season.
Yeah, just to put into comparison for him, he came into our side the same year as Thomas and Scott. So Scott.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Scott's best on our best 22 every week. Scott's arguably the first one of three chosen. And Thomas is, without behaviours, he's arguably our most skilled player.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do you know where Curtis Taylor was drafted? What position in the draft roughly he might have been?
I think he was mid 20 or 30s. I think he was.
Okay.
I'm curious. I think it was about that.
Yeah. Look, I don't. Yeah, he doesn't necessarily. I'm trying to think of the things that he can really, really add to this team, and I just think he's he could be like a decent player on an average team. And we are an average team. But yeah, look, I guess we'll see. Yeah. All right, my go now. And the third player on the list that I have here is Tom Powell. I think we could talk about it similar to Lazaro, but even he is a player that I think would play over Charlie Lazaro. I think, once again, with the midfield depth and barring injury, I don't see Tom Powell being able to play in a different position than the midfield. I don't see him off a halfback, gluttony of half forwards, which we've mentioned heaps. I think he struggles to get games next year. McKercher and Zerha, if Dersma does push into a midfield, maybe not next season, but in the next couple of years, there's lots of players that can go through there. Here's a quick question before we go on about it. Who would you play, Powell or Greenwood, if you had to pick one of them?
Powell, personally. Greenwood's obviously better at the moment, but I see the upside with a Powell. And Greenwood, I really like Greenwood as a player. I don't want that to be sort of that I don't think he's a good player.
Marnie's going to come over you.
Violence.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I really like Greenwood as a player a lot, and I think he's just a bit unlucky for where we are at the moment as a club. Powell is actually very similar because of, like, Powell, I think, could find another club and be very successful in another club, just because I think he's got all the assets, but yet again, he's behind players that are extremely, extremely capable in their positions. Like, it sounds weird to say about a team that's on the, bottom two picks, but like when you talk about LDU and what Wardlaw offers, and that's where Powell needs to be, really. He needs to be that inside, outside mid. He's got a bit of pace. He can kick goals as well, which sort of goes in his favour. They tried to play him a bit higher as a half forward in a few games, and he kicked a couple, but I don't think that's his position where he lands. I think he is really tough to get a game, and it's a shame because I really like him as a player. He's a player that I really like, and I just don't see where he fits as well, which is actually really frustrating.
Unfortunate, but once again, the signs of being a better team are players like that not being able to get a game. Personally, I think I'd pick Greenwood over Powell to play. I know Powell's got more upside for our future, but I don't know. I think Greenwood offers more in more positions and maybe can cover in roles that we need a lot more than what Powell could do. So personally, I'd pick Greenwood over Powell, not for the future, obviously, but like I said, I think he's a bit more versatile. So that one's going to be an interesting one. But hey, he's going to get his opportunity. Yeah, is Powell out of contract, is he?
Powell's out of contract as well. So they're both at the end of the year. It'll be really fascinating. That's a very good watch till the end of the year one because, I don't think you can play both of them at the same time as well. Like, with
barring injury, like an injury sort of crisis, to be fair.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. It's a bit of a shame though because both of them, as both players, I really like both players. I think Tom Powell still has a fair bit of value on an open market, just given that he's young. But my gut feel is, my understanding is they probably dangled him a little bit in this off season, and I don't think there was a huge amount biting. So it'd be interesting to see.
Okay. Hit us with another one.
Well, we've got one that I think is really needing a big season. One of your favourites in Coleman Jones.
Oh, here we go. This will set me off, but go for it, mate. Tell me why.
He's been on our list now for 3 years.
I'd like to say. Third year coming up, I think.
Third year, and I think he has not played that many games. He hasn't held down a spot. There's nothing like he was behind. He's coming into his third year with us. He played 10 games in the first, 9 games in the second. At the start of last year, when they had their options, they played Comben ahead of him. It's a role that he really should have just nailed down at this season, or at the end of last season. I don't think he did it. I think he's someone that really needs to. I think it's a big year for him this year. Like, he's going to have a contract for another year, but he needs to nail this year.
Yeah, he needs to find his spot this year in the team. And I actually had Coleman Jones down here as well. And I think once again, my biases and things like that, I'd probably start him in the ruck over Jerry. I think Coleman Jones can offer more than Tristan Jerry can. let's. I know not a lot of people are going to agree with that, but it's true. Like, that I don't think there's much of an argument to say that Tristan Jerry is a better ruckman than Coleman Jones, and Coleman Jones is definitely a better forward or contested mark up on the wing. I'm not saying Coleman Jones is, Max Gawn, but our ruck options are slim to none. Let's lump another player I've got in here then with Coleman Jones, because I think it is part of the discussion. I've got Charlie Comben on here, and I think it really depends for me. Where does Chom play? Does he go back? Because it's very, very, very strong word that he's going back, and by all reports, he's training with the back line at the moment. And I think Coleman Jones I would be playing Coleman Jones with Larkey up forward as well. I think that's our best forward combination of tools. I would probably, in an ideal world, if we were going to play our best 22, I would rather Comben in the back line and Coleman Jones in the forward line than I would Comben in the forward line and no Coleman Jones, if that makes sense. If we were going to, put them somewhere on the field. So, a massive year for Coleman Jones. If Comben goes back, I think it's a little bit easier for him to get opportunities in a game, but he definitely needs to show it and show the talent that he does have, but, hasn't been consistent with. And is it consistent because he's been bad? Not always. I think, he did get concussed a couple of times. And for me, the first month of football he showed was the biggest hole on our list. Was the next 4 weeks very good? No, it was not. So it really does depend on Comben, but let's lump those two together in the discussion, because I think you can't have the Coleman Jones discussion without the discussion about Comben going back or staying in the forward line.
Yeah, no, I actually very much so agree on that. I think, there's slightly different knocks that I have on both of them. CCJ just hasn't, there was a couple of games here and there where I can see why they've taken him and what they see in him. But then there's been the games that the difference between his best and his worst is significant. He's had games where he's just non-existent. Comben, he's been on our list for a decent amount of time now as well. I think he's 5 years odd. He just can't get his body right. And I think he's got a 2-year contract, but if he doesn't get his body right over the next few years, and sometimes that happens, it takes a while, but then a lot of good careers have been ruined by injuries. He's got the assets, and it felt like watching his games, it felt like he was close to that breakout game where he was going to tear something apart. And then he unfortunately had the injury again. So it's very, very frustrating. He's just such a likable guy. He's, by all reports, he's loved around the club, and he's got so many assets to play well. And that is just, I'd love to see him, if he could get success for him next year is to play for Comben, is to play 18 games. If he plays 18 games and has, a couple of breaks for body, which is going to be his career, I think at best, I don't think he'll play a 23 game season, what it is now. But if he plays 18 games around there and has a few games off here and there, that would be a very successful season for him, I think.
Yeah, I'm for the record, and I've said this before, I'm all for him going in the back line. I think he needs to. I think to be honest, if Comben and Coleman Jones are lining up for goal and we're 5 points down, I trust Coleman Jones more than Comben. I think his kicking was very iffy. Comben's got athleticism, he's got the agility, he's got more skills than Coleman Jones, but I think as a fundamental forward, Coleman Jones is better. I only see Comben nailing down a position in this team if he plays in the back line. I think, the forward line is too taxing on his body, and we've seen it with Tarrant. I think, and that's the best injury comparison one, because Comben's been so injury prone.
That's a very fair one, very good one.
And we've said Darcy Moore and Ben Mackay were also forwards when they got drafted and went back, not because of injuries, but just fitting in the team and attributes, I guess. So I don't know. We've seen it happen time and time again, and Tarrant is a great comparison with injuries. So, I think I'd like to see Comben go back. And I think he needs to nail down a position. And I think it's harder for him to nail down a spot in the forward line than it is in the back line. I do think Comben could be our best defender by the end of next season if everything goes right.
Yeah, hopefully. And I agree. I think his move down back makes sense in a lot. It's a very good, I think Terrence is a very, very good comparison. I mean, we had similar with Lockie Hansen when they moved him back and forth, not because of injuries, but they did a couple of switches with him.
Yeah.
But it was, it's a good one, I think. And he's got the assets and the tools. He's got the speed. He's got a very good leap on him.
It's similar to Majak as well, to be honest. Once again, not because of injuries, but Majak was a little bit wayward in the forward line. I think Comben's probably shown a bit more than Majak did in the forward line. Comben is a great mark, and if he could kick straight, I think he could be a great forward. But the lack of maybe polish, or you need less polish in the back line, I would say, than the forward line. In the back line, it's more important to be physically there, to be able to spoil and bring the ball to ground. And you don't need that as much in the forward line. I think with his attributes, and his injuries, I think the back line would be the perfect spot to just concentrate on creating a contest, one-on-one contests, and bringing that ball to ground and putting him on a Hawkins or a Taylor Walker or someone like that. So, interesting for those two. Sorry, do you have something else to say about Coleman, Jones, or Coleman?
No, I was going to say Majak, I think, did kick 6 goals in his first game against the Doggies. I think I was at that game.
I went on hashtag Kangaroos a few days ago, and with an episode with Dean, and he asked me what my best game memories are, and that was one of them. The Majak 6 goals against the Bulldogs. I loved Majak. Majak is a dream podcast guest for me. I love Majak Dor, and he was one of the only players that we've had at this club in my time that I've genuinely, every time he played a game, I was like, I have to watch this. Like, absolutely have to watch it. So every game I thought was going to be his breakout game. Was that naive on my point? Possibly, but when he was in the back line for Majak, my God, he was good. Incredible. So if Comben could do something like that, I reckon he could be another 10-year player for us. Because we're missing that player, that type of player so bad. Like if it's not too late, give Majak a 1-year deal, please, and get him back in that back line as far as I'm concerned.
Wouldn't complain about that. He had some great years there, or a great year specifically.
Very true.
Did you want to go another player?
Yeah. Do you want to go, or do you want me to go?
You go this one.
All right, I'll go this one. I've got two more on my list. You know what? Let's tease the audience. I've got another big name that I might save for the end. So I'm gonna go the lesser option. So you lot listen to the end, because please listen to the whole podcast. Darcy Tucker. Don't know where he fits. I guess, is he a midfielder? Is he a half-back? We didn't really see him in the forward line too much. I know he kicked a few goals here and there, but I guess it was more from pushing forward. I don't really trust him with his ball use off the half-back line like I would a Sheasel, a Fisher, a Godo, a Bergman. He's not getting into that midfield. I'd still play Greenwood and Powell over the top of him in the midfield. He's a big body. He's not overly quick. He's probably not quick enough to be on a wing. I'm really struggling to see where he fits, and I don't think he gets too many games next year, barring injury, of course, like we've said the whole podcast. But I think maybe in all of the midfielders we've talked about, him and Lazaro, I guess, are probably the ones that most threats. Like there's a good one for you, Tucker or Lazaro. Who would you rather have in the team?
Tucker. I like Tucker. I don't mind Tucker. He's got small aspects that he does. Oh, not small aspects. There's aspects that he does bring, because he can play a little bit taller. He can take the marks. He did kick a couple of goals. He was very limited by injuries. And he'll be one of the more mature bodies that came in. Like at the VFL, he's well above VFL standard when I've watched him. Sure. But so is Lazaro. But
what about Tucker or Greenwood then?
I still prefer Tucker over Greenwood.
Do you really over Greenwood?
I do.
That's baffling to me.
Yeah. Oh, he's got a better engine. He can run it. He's a bit more pacey on the outside than Greenwood. Greenwood's best thing is, the best things for Greenwood for me is he's got that contested ball, that strong inside. And I think it's an art in the midfield that isn't as important as it used to be, the one-geared midfielders. Though he can move forward and take marks, which is a nice asset to have.
I'm shocked by that. I think Greenwood is miles ahead of what Tucker can do, but each to their own, I guess. Look, we've got some hot takes here on the podcast. People are going to stick around now. I don't even need the big player at the end to get people listening.
I don't mind Tucker. I think you'll see Tucker play.
Yeah, I don't mind any of them, but yeah.
22 to 28 on our list. Like he'll be one that comes in as soon as injuries start happening, and injuries inevitably will happen.
Yeah, but I think Powell and Greenwood and Lazaro are in that same position. I guess even a Curtis Taylor, I think, is in the same position. And I would definitely play Greenwood. I'd play Powell over him. Tucker or Taylor, probably Tucker. But I don't see much in Tucker, I think he's a really solid 6 out of 10 player. And
he is a solid 6 out of 10. I'll give you that.
Yeah. Am I scared when he's got the ball? No, but I'm not thrilled as well. He did. I mean, last year, everyone knows my thoughts on this with Jack Zeeble getting reamed by our fans all year when he played 90% of what he did on the football field was really good. And yeah, he made some big mistakes, but I think Tucker was just as suspect coming off out of the back line as Jack Zeeble was. So I don't know. I hope Tucker probably doesn't play a bar injury, to be honest. And once again, not a criticism on him in particular. It's more just I hope our better, more talented players are healthy. And if he's in the team, I'd say it's only because of injuries, not because of maybe what he can produce at his best.
Yeah, it is I've tried to draw up when I do as well, I sort of look at who I think best 22 is at the same time, and I don't have him in our best 22. That being said, I don't have Greenwood in that either. I don't have Lazaro in that. These players are not players that are, starting on the field for me. And it's a interesting one to have, though. It's an interesting, but I don't know. I don't mind the Tucker. I've got a soft spot for Tucker, and I don't know why.
Darcy Tucker is your Jasper Pittard for Marnie. So, well, I need to see you repping a Darcy Tucker badge at the footy next year. Okay, I need you to send that through, and I'll post it up on the page.
I'll get a Darcy Tucker badge just on principle now.
Absolutely. All right. Do you want to throw? Have you got another one? And then we can do my last one. How many more have you got?
I'll go one more, and I think this one is not because of anything else other than I think I think he'll have a massive year this year. So I think he'll have a massive year, but it's going to be questioned at the end of the year what's going to happen. It's Taron Thomas.
Okay, big call.
Yeah, he's been obviously a bad boy off the field. At the end of last year, he was famously with the last 6 week books, he was a top 4 player in the comp, or last 4 weeks was the top 6 player.
Top 6,
He was and he is clearly, when he came to us to play against Essendon, he's clearly gives something that no one else on our team does.
Yeah.
But at the end of the year, there's going to be big question marks about him. Is he staying? Is he going? Is he behaved for the whole year? It's a contract year for him. There's a lot.
Do you think he? What do you think he has to do this season to not be in trade or free agency talks? You think it's just gonna? I guess the free agency talks are gonna. It's gonna happen regardless. But what do you think he can do this year to maybe put North fans' minds at ease?
Resign early.
Yeah.
But and I don't he won't resign till the end. He'll be. My gut feel with him is he's going to have a absolute blinder of a season. He'll tear it up. He genuinely, in my opinion, has capacity to not only be the best on our list, but a top 5 player in the AFL. He's just got every single asset that he needs to do that. And the only question mark on him is personality and occasionally effort. But the effort ones, he was in a very bad stage in his life at that point as well. So I see
him like a Jaden Stevenson, where if the team's decent to good, he's going to put in plenty of effort. I think, which is a good and a bad quality, I guess. You can take that as negative or positive depending on your perspective on it all. But yeah, I do agree with you with that. Do you know if he's restricted or unrestricted?
Restricted.
Okay, well
that's unrestricted next year.
Yeah, that's good. At least he's going to be restricted coming up to the end of 2024, so we can match if needed or get more compensate. Like, you'd think he'd be getting the money to get us another band 1 compensation if he did leave. Not that we want that.
That wouldn't be this year. That'd be next year. So this year it would be they'd have to trade for him.
Okay, so
And I think, yeah.
Sorry, you go.
Yeah, they'd have to trade for him. Is the big thing. Is this year? Next year it would be the compensation packages, and I think he would easily fall into a band run if it was the year afterwards. Because I think he's one of those players. He's just like that Essendon game.
Yeah.
Like after all the media, everything negative about him, like the North Club did a lot well by him and a lot right by him. But he just came in and he just tore that game apart. Like he gave us something immediately that no one else does. He does those long runs. He kicks at 60 meters. He's just class with the ball in hand. And he just creates plays. He's one of my favorite players to watch, but most frustrating players at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been on the record here saying I back Taryn. I think, as he matures, he's going to make better decisions going through things like he's done, which is he's doing, of course. I back him to learn from, and I reckon we're getting a controversy-free season from him. I think, to be in a small club like this where the support is there, proper real support is there for you. With the mistakes he made, having Jen and Sonia, like two female sort of leaders at our club, back him publicly and then get back into the side maybe before a lot of people thought. I think he's done a lot right since he's come back, and I think he needs the credit for that, as well as criticism for what he's done and that not shying away from that at all. But I think, I think he deserves a little bit more hype or backing from the fan base, from, getting coming back from that, doing his time, earning the respect back from especially our, sort of female staff members and everybody, and coming back in the team and being a star under pressure. And, he can absolutely be the best player on this team for the next 10 years and win a couple of premierships if he wants to, I guess. So, I do agree with you. I'm backing him. Doesn't mean it's locked in. He's not going to do anything. I don't know. But, I don't think he's the guy who's going to every offseason needs to be like worried about. I think, he made a mistake and, it was a bad time in his life, but every season hasn't been like that for him. And Taylor Walker is everyone's favourite player again. De Goey's, everyone's favourite player again. Bailey Smith is, maybe not as much right now, but a year ago was the face of the league and that sort of stuff. So, it's all down to if the team's winning games, no one's going to care. And I think Taryn copped a lot last year because we were bad, and it's easy to pile on North. And, I think there's plenty of other players who have done a lot worse. And are now fan favourites, and all the media and commentary sort of love them. So I'm back in Taryn. I think he's a star, and I hope he stays because I think he owes the club a little bit now as well. But yeah, look, I think that's a big call by you, to be honest, putting pressure on him into next season. I know why. I know it's not him as a player or him talent wise or where he fits in, because I think we both agree he's in our best three. Talented. Yeah, best three midfielders, no questions asked. But we've had a few months without footy now, and we're going pretty sweet. So I back Taryn, but yeah, do you think he's do you back him as well? Like, you don't have to go into too much if you don't want to about it, and we'll keep it as non-political as possible. But like, do you back him? Do you think he's going forward? Are you really worried about him in the off seasons, or you think it was just a moment in his life?
I mean, like everyone, we're all human. We all make mistakes, and we're all capable of doing things that we'll regret and can learn from as well. We're all learning at the same time. And I think he's definitely, it sounds like, the club's done the right thing, and he's done, all the work that the club's saying he's doing, and we'll take the club for that. So I think he's very capable of, bouncing back. There's a lot of players that have done it, as you pointed out, quite a few good examples. Like Tex not too long ago was, the worst player in the comp for what he'd done. And then, he's put in work, and, he's obviously made a mistake, and he's obviously grown and learned, and he's played good footy now, and everyone's sort of, he's one of the greats all time of Adelaide, and he'll always go down as that. De Goey, not too long ago, he was the bad boy and, going to be put out of their side.
He's had plenty more scandals and things like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Taryn has too. He's a player that every offseason I'm like, I don't know, but it's just because of the track record, Yeah.
And that's the only, Taryn, his footy skills, as I said, I love watching him play, and he's one of my favourite players to watch when he's going. And I said, this year, the big concerns for me more so is he's out of contract. And he's, there's been a lot of noise around him at different stages about going to other clubs. So that's
a lot of headlines though, isn't it? Like, I think, this might be it. Let me know if this is a take or not. I think Zerha will leave more than Taran would leave, personally.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I just get it's all gut feel. But I think Zerha has more of a chance to leave than Taran Thomas is. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. Obviously, I've got no insight on it, but if you're going to ask me which one is more likely to leave, I think Zerha.
Yeah. Interesting take. I mean, I'd be probably leaning towards more Taran, and the reason I'd say that is just because for 3 off seasons, there's been noise. That being said, Bull, like I don't disagree with your position on Bull either. I tend to agree with your position on him. And Taran, like the frustrating thing with Taran is that as in if he potentially left, is that he's a player that we definitely need. He does stuff that no one else does. He's like, you can recover more from the loss of a Bull than you can from a Taran, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
But that being said, Taran, when I see him celebrating with Jai, like in a few of those games where they're playing together, like
especially the Gold Coast game as well. He was the first into all of those celebrations, and I guess that was a time for me when I think he deserves a little bit more. Not credit's not the right word. Deserves a little bit more backing for his love for the club. From those moments, because if Sheasel is the first one in, everyone's like, oh my God, look how much he loves the place. And I know why we are more doubtful about Taran, and I completely get it, but I don't know. I just don't, I think it's easy for the media to make a headline out of him because of his off-field stuff. If the club really wanted to get rid of him because they were concerned about it, last year was the time.
Agreed.
I don't know, just an opinion, not my final opinion, I guess. And next year will completely dictate that. But I don't know. I just have a weird gut feeling. And look, once again, if Cam Zerha's listening to this, I love Cam Zerha, and I think on his day, I'd nearly say Cam Zerha's more exciting to watch than Taran. Like, and they're both 10 out of 10 would light up a football field. But Taran's just a bit more consistent, I guess. But I hope they both sign 10-year contracts and we've got them holding up the cup together and then on the G in a few years. But like, I don't know, just a gut feeling with my Zerha take. And if I'm right, I'm going to come back and tell you all. I've been saying that for years. We've got the receipts now, So, anyway, okay. All right, let's go the last one. And I think, you know what? I think you've dampened my take here because I think Taran is a hotter take than mine. But lastly, it's Tristan Jerry. No, it's Aiden Core. No, it's not. No, it's not. Unfortunately, it's not Aiden Core. I would love to be sitting here saying Aiden Core is on the hot seat. Trust me, nothing would give me more pleasure than saying Aiden Core might not play football. No, I'm joking. Aiden Core was good, and I hope he plays as well as he did last year because he's definitely in our best 22. Tristan Jerry, on the other hand, I hope he plays at the start because I don't think he's any good. But it's not those two because that's an easy take for me. Everyone would think I would say those things. So, no, my last player that I'm going to name is our co-captain, Luke McDonald. Our co-captain, Luke McDonald. And I think he is in our best 22 to start the year. But I could easily, if he plays like he did last year, which I don't think was atrocious, I think it was below par and one of his worst seasons. But I think we all forgot how good of a player he can be. And I do back Luke McDonald to come back next year and sort of hold down the spot in the 22 for the whole season. But if there's any shades of him playing like he did last season, I could easily see him being under a lot of pressure.
He had a horrendous season by horrendous, I mean, he was played
compared to what he's dished
position.
Up before.
Yeah. I think he was played a tiny bit out of position. Like they tended to use him like on the small forwards a bit more than they did. And he got torched by small forwards.
Yeah. He's never been that player though.
Yeah. Our backline was getting massacred for a lot. I mean, like it was so like the ball wasn't not going in the oppositions. Like there was a lot of pressure. I'm not sure the captaincy did him favors. I wouldn't be upset if the club went down to one captain in Jai.
I would go Jai and go Larky and McDonald for vice personally.
Yeah, Larky and McDonald is vice. But I'm not sure I'm not sure if he put more pressure on himself. But compared to what, like he's had some brilliant games of footy in like 2022. He was great to watch. Like every contest, you'd be comfortable that he would win his one-on-ones. Where this season there was just something, I'm not sure if he was carrying an injury or if he was the responsibility, but something just wasn't clicking. And your take is a very reasonable one, I think. And Bergman will be breathing down his neck a bit, though I'm not sure Bergman's ahead of him at all. Goda is going to be, yet again, another player in the similar position. Fisher. Yeah. But Fisher's not going to be a defending backman. No. He's going to be a running. It's the same thing with Sheasel. Sheasel's not a defending backman. He's a running
What about
backman.
Archer? What about Jackson Archer?
Well, he's the other player that can hopefully, like my hope for him is that he becomes a lockdown defender because that's what we're sort of lacking. I mean, Goda, you started to see really, there was a couple, I think it was that Saints game, he was brilliant in chopping off a lot of those long kicks and he was taking marks in those areas from intercept marks because he's got capability to do that. So Goda, I've got really high hopes for this year. Bergman, similar, I'd hope for. And then Hardiman, I think will play earlier rather than later and he'll be potentially.
Do you think he's a chance? Like you're not saying round one, or like what do you think with Hardiman?
I think there's a sneaky chance. Like if he has a really good off season, he's got the capabilities to play round one because his tool set will go across well there. He'll end up doing a lot of because he marks well, he tackles really well, and I think he'll transition that well, and he can run really well off the halfback line. I think he's more likely to play round one than Dersma would be.
Really,
which is a bit of a take. Yeah. Well, Dersma, taller, thinner frame.
I guess I think with Dersma, for me, I'm more just like last year with Shees and everything, just throw them in. We're young. We're not expected to be good. Just give Dersma minutes. And if he plays 3 or 4 games where he doesn't do too much, keep him in there and show. I mean, if we turn out to be more competitive and we've got chances to win some games, maybe then drop him. But, you know, I wouldn't be against putting Dersma in our round one team. Look, I guess I don't know as much about Hardiman as you, but, you know, I do agree with like Bergman and players like Goda, McDonald and Archer. I would be playing all of those over a Hardiman. He can definitely earn his spot. Yeah. I mean, I think every position in the back line is up for grabs because it's so poor. Yeah. Well, but, you know. I
think Hardiman's more so competing with your Bergmans, Godas, and probably Lukey Mack. That's the position he's not going to be like he can tackle really well, but he'll be running off the back line. But it'll be an interesting one. But Lukey Mack, as I said, like those players coming in are going to be the ones that are starting to put more pressure on him. Like, because I don't see him like he used to play a bit higher up the ground, but he doesn't have the pace really to go because that's the thing you see with Bailey Scott just runs all day. He's an absolute engine. And what's his name? The new one, Stevens, is an absolute jet. Like he's one of the huge pace. Like he's just so fast once he gets going. So he'll be really fast down the other wing. And that's what the club brought in, a lot of pacey people. That's what they really wanted. That's what Fisher's going to do. Sheasel, I don't think is as fast, but he's so good at his agility and ability. Clean and his agility. He's just he gets the clean disposals. Lukey Mack, he'll have to play a lockdown defender a lot more. Be curious.
Who do you think's his main competition? Who do you think's the one player that maybe is battling Luke McDonald for his spot?
Oh, I think you carry a couple of people in his role, but I'd have Lukey Mack and Goda will be the first two of those sort of because they're similar size position and they'll be chopping off into the marking spaces of other players and they'll be zoning into it. Bergman's probably the next one into that space and then Hardiman's another one into that space.
Yep.
So that's where the depth is sort of at that role.
Yeah, okay. It'll be an interesting season for Luke McDonald. Like I said, I do think he's in our best 22 at the start of the season, but nearly out of all the bigger players I named, I think maybe he's probably under the most pressure. Simpkins, Zerha, and McDonald. And Comben are probably the 4 players who are probably in our best 22 that I named under pressure. But out of those 4, I think Luke McDonald's probably under the most pressure.
Should he keep captaincy this year?
I mean, look, like we said before, I think I like the one captain thing. I know the 2 captain West Coast named co-captains as well, which I just don't. It's becoming a thing. I don't know. Is it just Gen Z not being able to handle things on their own and getting scared? I'm not sure, but I don't know. I just don't like. I want one face of the club. I want. And ideally, I mean, if it's Jai or Larky being our captain, I'd be more than happy with that. I think Larky, I'd probably want Larky to be the captain, but I'm more than happy for Jai to be our captain. But McDonald, he's a vice captain at best for me. And, ideally for me, Jai captain,
because I don't want to I think it's unfair to take the captaincy off him after having to go through all that last season. Larkey and then McDonald vice captains, and I'd be pretty sweet. Leadership group, I mean, we can talk about that another time, but yeah, what do you think? Do you think McDonald should be captain next year or drop it back?
I'd drop it back to Jai and then wait till Sheasel's old enough.
Yeah, you see Sheasel as a leader like that already?
Yeah. I mean, the club wants it. The club clearly, that's the direction the club's going.
Yeah,
I just think you give him a couple more years.
Do you think he is maybe seen as more of a future captain than Larkey, though?
I think usually when you go captains, you tend to have people that influence the ball a bit more, like in the midfield. Not always and not exclusively, but a lot of times I think they tend to be midfielders because you can rally the troops a bit more. Larkey would be a great captain, though. I love Larkey, and I think he's got a lot of passion. And he's if he was captain in the interim, and they gave him a captaincy for a few years as well but Sheasel's who they're targeting Sheasel. The club loves Sheasel. I love Sheasel. Everyone loves Sheasel.
You can't not love Sheasel.
You can't not love the Shees.
Okay. Well, look, that's an interesting discussion. Maybe pre-season I'll talk about leadership groups and things like that. I wonder who they're going to sort of put through that with Cunnington and Mackay and Zeeble and all these people going. So that'll be another thing that I guess they name in the new year. So anyway, that's basically the episode done. Pretty basic episode today. Just thought we'd get on and chat a little bit about players we think are under pressure, clearly for different reasons. Some are under pressure, because they're not quite good enough or not in the 22. Some are under pressure for injuries and all that sort of stuff. But hopefully it all made sense and we clarified all our opinions. Please don't come at us saying, I can't believe Taryn's under pressure. He's easily now 22, because we know that. So please listen to everything we said and don't roast me in the DMs. But look, Joel, thank you for coming on again, and who knows, I'm sure you'll be a semi-regular guest through the season as well, if you're obviously happy to do so.
Always happy to join on for a good chat.
Beautiful.
So,
well, I guess
you want me.
yeah. Look, mate, you'll be called up for sure. I'm sure there'll be points in the season that I need some perspective on some players I think are awful, and you'll bring the actual logic and calm state of mind that I sometimes lack.
When Hardiman plays round one, you can.
Yeah, you'll be telling me I told you so. Just like you were right with all of the draft picks as well in the second mock draft we did.
Oh gosh.
So you can toot your own horn on that one. You've got the episode to replay to people who doubt your ability on the draft. So if anyone ever criticizes your draft knowledge, we've got that clip to play when you basically in the second mock draft predicted all of our sort of late first round picks, all three of them correctly. So you're an absolute nutter, mate, and that's why we get you on here.
Beautiful. Thanks for having me again.
Easy, mate. Well, thank you for coming on again, and we'll talk again very soon.
Thank you to Joel once again for coming on the podcast. Always good to get him on to have a chat, and hopefully we didn't throw out too many controversial things to make you guys upset. But hey, that's where the content's at, right? So let me know if you disagree with any of those. Feel free to message, tell me I'm an idiot, and tell me why I'm an idiot. Because I know I'm an idiot, but if you can explain why, maybe I'll accept it. So here we are, 2023. Almost done though. Okay, AFLW chat. So last Sunday, North Melbourne did play Brisbane in the AFLW Grand Final. Myself, for the Close to a Flag lads, Marnie, and some of the other crew came along to that, which was very, very fun. Was it fun at the end of the game? Not as much. We started pretty well. What I'm really noticing about these AFLW games is it's really played in between the 50s. And if you can ever get on top of the clearances or making space near a clearance, you really have the ascendancy. As we know, North Melbourne's defence all year has been rock solid. And they held up pretty well until the last quarter, to be honest with you. And then that lady, whoever their forward is, she's huge. I swear she's about 2 meters tall. Anyway, this big 2 meter tall lady decided to take a couple of marks in the final quarter, kick a couple of goals, and a couple of goals in the AFLW is equivalent to probably 5 or 6 in the AFL. So, that sort of put it to bed, early to midway through the last quarter. I think the real thing that stuck out to me other than those things, though, was, like I said, sort of around the clearances, we didn't capitalise on that early, and clearance numbers do seem to be a bit skewed. Just because we get the clearance doesn't mean it's a good clearance. And I think, we didn't do too well getting it out of the middle or out of a ruck contest efficiently and then progressing the ball forward quickly into the forward line. That's basically the things I picked up. There was an injury early on to one of our better players, and from there we handled it pretty well, to be honest. That was right in the first quarter, near the start of the first quarter. And for the next 3 quarters, we basically were the better team on the park, but we didn't quite pull away. We could never quite, convert our play or our better play into scores. And we sort of kept it close. We sort of kicked away. Brisbane got a couple of lucky bounces. I think the first goal they scored was a very lucky bounce that bounced through the goals, bounced outside the goal square. So, look, they stuck in it. They kept at it. In the last quarter, they seemed fitter and they were much more efficient coming out of the contest and just getting the ball forward. And, it's sort of like, it's very old school type footy where, if you do have a big forward that can take a mark, that's going to be such a weapon up front in the AFLW, just like the 80s, the 90s and all the years sort of before were, unlike today where it's more possession-based and, midfielders pushing forward and kicking 2 or 3 goals and that sort of stuff. So, look, well done to the girls though. It was the prelim was so exciting and they played so well for the first 3 quarters. And look, they weren't bad in the fourth, but Brisbane just got on top. So, well done to all the girls in that team. And I think every year upon year, and me including this year, you sort of win people over slowly. So, look, there's probably not too much more to chat at from my end. I've made no secret of I'm new to AFLW. I don't want to try and pretend that I know any more than I do because why would I bother doing that? But the important thing is I'm learning the players' names slowly. I've gone to a few games this season and watched a bunch on TV. And year on year, I'll follow it more and hopefully you guys do as well. And that's the best thing for this league while it grows and gets bigger and bigger. We saw what the Matildas did, with their World Cup run and how Australia sort of got behind them and, clearly we don't care if it's men or women playing sports. We just care that it's exciting and fun. And that's a great thing about Australia. And that's a great thing about the Matildas and what the AFLW is doing alongside that this year with getting more people into the game. As the game gets better, we watch more. So, look, great job to the girls again. Let's see what they can do next season because we're fighting for premierships every year by the looks of it. Within the next few years anyway, let's hope. So, yeah. Great job to them. If you haven't got on the AFLW yet, please check it out. I understand it's not everyone's cup of tea, and that's completely fine as well. But, we love what the girls are doing. It's getting better every year, and it can be really fun, close footy. I mean, the prelim was 1 point, so I had a good time, and I'll be going back to a few next year as well. So, I don't know. Not really much more to talk about the AFLW Grand Final. That's sort of how the game went to me. I wish I knew a few more players, but I'll get there. And I don't know. We lost, so I don't really want to go on and on about it. Next year when we win the grand final, you get a whole podcast of me dissecting the game. But, positivity on this podcast, so we're not going to talk about the result. But once again, well done to the girls, and I look forward to seeing the premiership next year. If you guys want good AFLW content as well, hashtag Kangaroos with Dean, he gets some of the girls on. Which are good podcasts to listen to. So, there's more North Melbourne content for you in the off-season and soak it up, guys. Soak it up. All right. The only other thing maybe quickly to talk about, I don't really know how many more podcasts I'm going to do maybe before next year. There's not really much going on. Like we all know, Hugh Greenwood in Speedos, Marnie's giving you that content. That's fine. Marnie's also giving you Kane Turner overlapping handball to Aiden Core goal from outside the 50 content. Other than that, there's not really much more to say. Charlie Comben did confirm he's going into the backline next year to replace Ben Mackay. That is exciting. Myself and Joel sort of did talk about that a little bit, and it's great. He's perfect for that role. This is Robbie Tarrant 2.0 as far as I'm concerned. I know a lot of people love Charlie, and I do as well. I wasn't quite as convinced of him as a forward as maybe some other people, but his athleticism, his size, his marking ability, his competitiveness, his overall attitude, I think is perfect for that sort of Ben Mackay replacement role, and I reckon he's going to star in it next year. He'll be our best defender by the end of next season, if not halfway through, in my opinion. So, look, I'm excited for that. And I think that really does fill a massive hole. If we were going in with Core and a Callan Dawson or a Toby Pink, I would be very, very worried. Nothing against those players, and hopefully they get their opportunities this year and get very, very good and a lot better at their footy. But, you know, the back line is a place where you need experience more than anywhere else on the field. The back line is so hard and you're under so much pressure all the time, especially being on the North Melbourne Footy Club right now. But hey, Combin and Core down there, it's okay, you know, but I love that Charlie's going down there. So good luck to him. Train up a storm, mate. Yeah, okay. I'm going to go have another nap, guys. Seriously, I was cooked this week and I can't believe I left you guys hanging. But here we are. You've got a podcast. Will I return next week? I'm not too sure. If anything happens, I think I will. Maybe I'll just do an end of season one to thank you guys for maybe finishing up the first year of the Further North podcast. I'll think of something for that and maybe I'll get Marnie on and we'll have a chat because, to be fair, you guys probably just come here to listen to Marnie and me argue. So, all right, I'm rambling again. You guys know how I go. Talk to you very soon. Love you. Bye.